Hereby call this special meeting to order. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and nature thereof. Seeing none, no delegations. So I just wanted to start off by thanking everybody for adding this to their busy schedules already, but felt it was important to get some of these decisions ratified by council because our next meeting isn't until March 6th, and many of these items we're dealing with on the agenda could not, were pressing. So thanking everybody for making the time. I'm happy to see everybody is here, and also that the press is here too. Consideration of business for which notice was given. We have minutes from the recommendations of the Canada 150 Music Festival Advisory Committee held February 15th. So just so the benefit of council, there are several recommendations within the minutes. So we have them broken out into separate items, resolutions. So I just like to start off with the first item, which is we can discuss and deal with, is the retention of professional event coordinator. And the recommendation from the committee was that to secure Mr. Donnelly as a professional event coordinator for the music festival for an upset limit of $15,000, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the contract between the township of Scugog and Mr. Donnelly. There are some questions that we have with this one. I believe Diane had a question regarding GST inclusive or not. So that has to be clarified within this recommended motion, and also, as with all agreements, we would need legal to review our own township review. So this is the recommended motion that's here, so I'd be looking for a mover and a seconder for the motion. Councillor Back, moving it. That are you moving the motion that is put forward there with also the HST or GST?
I would say net.
Net of HST, and the agreement be reviewed by legal, as with all agreements. So do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Kett. Okay, any questions on that? Councillor Watton. Do anybody from the committee?
No, I didn't hear him. I said, who's Mr. Donnelly? Don't forget to use your mic. Sorry.
Who's Mr. Donnelly?
I can speak a bit to it, but I don't know if anybody from the other one's committee. I believe the chair of the committee has been dealing with Mr. Donnelly to vet out steps to date on the undertakings from the music festival, and before, when it was being looked at from council. One of the requests that we had as a resolution from this council was to secure a professional event coordinator, and I know Mr. Donnelly is a Port Perry native that dealt with large festivals here 20-something years ago and sooner, and he is worked with Live Nation, including the bands at Ontario Place, and his current employment is out west for a major production facility or arena. So I believe it came about because of his background knowledge of the venues that are here, the fairgrounds, the inner workings of the township, and then having the internal or the connections to be able to deal with talent, etc. So that's the extent of Mr. Donnelly.
So he has done some events in Durham region?
I believe.
Or in even Scugog?
Yes.
Can you tell me?
Michelle Wright concert, Kim Mitchell, all those big events that happened here in the past, he was the guy behind them all. So maxed out. I don't know who would have that history on it, but that was the background on there, which I'm sure that you can get an item detail or a listing of for his experience. So I just know that he's got his start from Port Perry. That was where his start was in the events, and that he's moved up to be a international
Okay, so
event coordinator.
did the committee see a resume on this gentleman, or is it just because somebody knew him that he came forward, or because you're asking us to move this or accept this and based on, in my opinion, what? And I don't want to delay the process any longer either. I was just hoping someone could give me those answers.
I can only give you the answer. I don't know the full dealings that he's had with the committee himself, but the committee had knew they had to secure a professional event coordinator to make sure that there was a professional vetting out the decisions that were being made. But if there's extra information that is required or et cetera, I'm sure we can seek to get that as a supplement for the history, for the professional background, if that's what you're looking for.
My concern is that we're moving $15,000 based on just a name without any real background.
What would you like to see?
I would have certainly liked to have seen a resume or a list of accomplishments or something to accompany this recommendation. Now, if the music committee has that and can give it to me, then, you know, I would be fine. But I don't think we would ever approve this kind of money without a little bit more information than what we have before us.
I can't speak for the chair, but I'm pretty sure that there was a CD that was transferred on that one, but I don't want to speak for the chair of the committee on that. So that is a valid point. So let me follow up with some further questions. We'll make note of that one. Councillor Back.
Thank you. Through the mayor, and it's my belief that this is going to be paid through the revenues that are going to be made from the music festival. Well, it does matter because it's not taking $15,000 from money right now in the township. So this is from when the actual event happens and there's revenue. It would be $15,000 of that.
Councillor Drew, did you have a question?
Yes, I hear what Councillor Watton was saying, and I have a question for our treasurer. I'm not sure off the top of my head what the thresholds are for getting quotes. I don't think it meets the threshold for a tender. I think tender's what, 20 or 25,000. But is there other thresholds where we have to get quotes or requests for interests or?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It does identify in our procurement bylaw that you should get quotes, whether oral or written, depending on the threshold. And I think 15,000 would qualify for some quotes. However, through the purchasing bylaw too, you can single source, and due to the time restraints, I'm assuming that's why it was done this way. I don't know for certain, but it can be done that way.
Thank you.
Councillor Guido.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What would the scope be of Mr. Donnelly's job for the township? And is that an agreement that the committee will be writing up, or is that something that internally we're writing up as far as staff goes?
My understanding from not being at all the committee meetings is that the professional event coordinator is an arm's length individual that has the expertise in the music industry, that to make sure that whatever is being purchased or being secured is being properly vetted by an individual that has experience in the industry, so it's a protection for the municipality. Without having that, then we have citizens and councillors on a committee without that overseeing body to make sure that everything is, you're paying the proper amount for whether it's a stage rental or a tent or for venues, or just making sure that you're properly accounting for things that people that are in the music industry know, step by step in the back of their hand, what needs to be done, what needs to be secured, what needs to be priced. If we didn't have an individual involved with that, then I think that there would be more questions with decisions that happen.
No, I absolutely support that we have someone whose profession is to promote these types of events. My question was, who is writing up the agreement with this individual?
My understanding is that the agreement would be an upset limit for cost recovery of just making sure that this individual is not out of pocket for expenses. It's not something that is to be a primary line of work for him to make the, say, market value for this, because this is his hometown. He wants to make sure that that it's successful. So that's why there's an upset limit on their 15,000, just to make sure that there's cost recovery involved for involvement that has to be done in there. So, as far as the agreement, to answer your question, that's why we have it on their agreement to be reviewed by legal, because I'm sure it would be legal to make sure the township is protected, that we're not on the hook. There's an expectation of deliverables on both parties, between the township, between the professional event coordinator. So it's more to protect both parties, and we would be looking at there are templated documents that we can do. I'm pretty sure that they would have an agreement from its history that would come forward with it. That's what I envision. Then it's not truly an agreement if something was to go south, so I would like to make sure that we have an agreement in place for expectations on what his approval means, like if he's signing off on something.
Isn't it true that also he would be charging over $100,000 for the same if he didn't start in Scugog?
I have no idea. I don't know if he's talked to you about that or not, but I didn't have that conversation. Councillor Somerville?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to see an agreement drawn up. 15,000, I think we're getting a real deal on this one, because it's just a big undertaking, first of all, and to do all that he has to do. Now, my question is this going to be including his trip back from Vancouver, the 15 grand? Because that's a big hunk of money to come back from Vancouver.
Yes, that was the biggest expense that he didn't want to incur personally, is the travel costs, and that's really... So
that's going to be included in the 15,000, so it's probably 1,000 anyways to come back, close to it, and probably fly back out again? Is that going to be in the agreement?
I have...
that's 2,000 off already, so okay. I think we need to kind of get this down to more of a fine line as to his exact commitments and who he's going to be responsible to, and how long it's going to be for.
I could suggest that we can add or appease these concerns by having a pre-approval of expenses out of that, just to, like we would with anything else, that if you're securing something for an upset limit, and we're talking about agreement, we don't want to incur a large amount of legal costs drafting of an agreement that's going to end up costing more in legal fees than we are in the actual securing the individual. So I don't want to minimize the need for having legal vetting it. That's why that was one of the items I want to see, is make sure an agreement is reviewed by legal, but we can put in clauses or conditions that say it's not just a blank check for $15,000, that it has to be, invoice supported expenses or something that makes sure there's accountability within it.
I can agree with that. I just want to make sure that we have this really down to fine line so we can account for our money. And I do recall that it wasn't coming out of our 75,000, it was coming out of the money that we do make from the event, so I can go along with it, but I just want it in more detail, I think.
Yeah, no, and the last thing we want to do is to have something that is not transparent, so we want to make sure that this has the necessary steps, checks, and trail on here. So, any other questions on this particular one, Councillor Watton?
Should this recommendation then read for, cost recovery to an upset limit of? I don't know if that makes a difference, but I'm just wondering, because then I would think the expenses will be submitted and, or expenses to an upset limit of 15,000, or maybe it says that in the upset limit, but I did not read that.
That was my understanding of it, but I would look to other members of the committee to see if they understood something. Councillor Back?
Thank you. Through the mayor, I would think that, this is an upset limit, and if in that 15,000 limit, if he were to have a stipend for his time, which is going to be hardly any of what he would normally charge, I think that is an expense anyways. So the fact that he's going to give us whatever, if it's travel expenses, time, if it's even a discounted, that's all within this. You don't need to say what their expenses are, because a fee or my fee of my time, even if I discount it, is an expense. So it's clearly stated here, whether it's itemized as, you're not going to get, to say travel for food, for other staff, for whatever his expenses are. This is clearly, you don't need to get nitpicky, I don't think.
Councillor Drew?
To have due diligence on this project and oversight by this council. And there's a lot of questions about this. What exactly is it going to cost us? What does it cover? What does the agreement look like? And I think all of these questions are very valid, and I'm just a little uncomfortable. I would like some advice from staff on their views on this. If we're sticking our neck out too far on this one without seeing a legal agreement, or does staff feel that if we can go back on this motion if we don't get a firm legal agreement that we can agree on? So I would ask for staff's opinion on this.
Maybe I'll ask the clerk to just comment on that. I don't know, I don't want you to get politically involved with it, but just what was your understanding or thought with the legal reviewing an agreement and the resolution that council asked before to actually have a professional event coordinator? So,
through you, Mr. Mayor, to the council, I'll admit up front that this is not my area of expertise. In terms of the resolution as it stands right now, certainly having the agreement, although not presented today, reviewed by legal is certainly a positive in terms of the staff review. If council are concerned about not seeing the agreement, it's not being presented. The agreement hasn't been seen by staff yet either, so there is that possibility that council may want to see the agreement before it gets sent to legal, or maybe it be brought back, but that's a decision of council with regards to that agreement. Unfortunately, I can't offer too much more because it's just not my area, I'm afraid. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I just wonder further to that. I'm just wondering if we could add in principle to allow us to get out of this if things aren't the way they should be. And I also have a question about, further on, there's a recommendation, which I will be speaking to later, on a 3-day event. Is this gentleman going to also be responsible for the Saturday and Sunday activities, should that go forward?
Are you asking the committee that question, or? Yeah. I don't know what the extent of this was. All I know is that, Mr. Donnelly, being in that field of expertise, was willing to vet and coordinate a lot of the major expenses that, would be required for the setup of an event. So I don't know if other committee members, Councillor Back?
Thank you, through the mayor. So I would assume that, and not assume, I will state that Mr. Donnelly will be still engaged, because for the entire 3-day event, overseeing the takedown of the stage, the tent, the speakers, and any other equipment or rental that was rented or purchased, that they again are returned to their proper companies that they came from. So that is just part and parcel of what an event coordinator does. They get everything lined up, they ensure there's delivery, and then they ensure the takedown is all scheduled properly and everything is returned to where it should be.
Councillor Kett? Councillor Drew, did you?
How does this sound? That council approves in principle the securement of Mr. B. Donnelly as the professional event coordinator for the music festival for an upset limit of $15,000, including GST, or HST, or whatever, and reviewed by council. I'm sorry, by legal, sorry.
Okay, so, Councillor Back, Councillor Kett, would you accept that as a friendly amendment to capture that? Councillor Back first. I don't know if you...
I'm okay with, most of it, Mayor. The only thing I'd like to have changed is the, $15,000 to include all expenses, except HST, because I don't believe HST is part of it.
Councillor Kett, that's what that means.
I understand that, but that wasn't in the wording that was in the new...
It's in my motion.
Yeah, so...
I realize, but it was changed by Councillor Drew.
Well,
So, hold on, guys, just bear with me here. Councillor Drew, was that your intent of net HST or include?
I believe I said net.
So you mean net, so you mean that it's net of HST, so it's $15,000, not including the HST?
No, I'm sorry, it should be including HST.
Including HST. 'Cause
no,
normally, when-
then it's not a friendly acceptance, thanks,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
So, just to look at the treasurer here, so when we do reports, there is a requirement, I think that when we do tenders, et cetera, it has HST, it shows the total amount, but then later on in reports, it shows net. I don't know if, there's typically we go on net of HST when we're doing budgets and expenses, et cetera, because we get, almost 95% of the HST back. 11.25% of 13%, is that correct?
11.24%, yes. So
11
we incur 1.76% of the tax as an expense. I'm not sure whether this individual would incur the tax, if it's a small business.
Yeah, so...
You can, sorry, should I continue?
Yes, continue.
Sorry. You can say net of HST, and then, you can say either or in your reports. Typically on awards that go through, we include the full HST because that is the amount of the check that would be going out to that company or that individual, and then the amount that's actually hitting the expense account includes the 1.76%.
Yeah. So we were talking about 1.76 is the net of HST amount, so that's why I was just trying to not make this a sticking point if we had, so leave it, okay. So Councillor Back, do you accept it as a friendly amendment then, is it, if it has the, net of HST? net of HST, how you worded it? Councillor Drew said net of HST. So is that okay then, that you accept it as a friendly amendment? We can have it read back just to make sure. Mr. Clerk, do you have it there in front of you, or do you,
I'm unclear.
Right.
Unclear of that. If we get clarification on that.
the in principle, and I maybe need clarification on the use of the in principle in this particular motion, that if we are using the event coordinator later on to approve on something, that I'm just wondering if it should be pending something.
Mr. Mayor, is that, by saying in principle, if legal is okay with it, and staff is okay with it, and, with the agreement, that it can go ahead without, another meeting of council to approve it. That's what that means.
Okay, so I'm just looking to the clerk to maybe clarify that so it is clear. Is there a suggestion you would have for that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just looking for clarification whether the in principle part of the motion suggested by Councillor Drew was accepted or not. That's what I was looking for clarification on. And the way I've got it written here, and this is Councillor Drew, if you correct me if I'm wrong, the way I've got it as that the committee secure Mr. B. Donnelly in principle as the professional event coordinator for the music festival for an upset limit of $15,000 net of HST, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the contract between the Township of Scugog and Mr. B. Donnelly, subject to review by the township's legal representative. I'm just looking for clarification whether that was accepted or not as a friendly amendment.
Yeah, the only change, Mr. Clerk, is that, the council approves in principle. We are in a council meeting, so, okay, the council approves in principle, da-da-da-da-da-da.
So, and just to clarify this for the benefit of everybody, that the council approves in principle, but it's subject to the legal and staff. That's what the in principle was doing. Is that understandable as the acting CAO and clerk, that makes sense?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's understandable, and just still looking for approval from the mover if that's acceptable as a friendly.
Okay, so, I'm fine with the in principle, and I'm fine with the, legal and staff. I just don't want added, as, Councillor Drew said, and then council again. We're approving today, and we're putting it towards legal and staff, expertise to go forth. I just have a question to the mayor. What is the time frame, or to our clerk, what is the time frame on legal, looking at an agreement? Because we are really at a time-sensitive moment here, and we don't want to have that we lose a band due to red tape.
I'm not going to, the clerk will answer that too. That was a concern as well with myself, but I think this is going to be standard stuff that has gone through already entertainment lawyers from the industry, so the lawyers will receive something that is not drafted from scratch. It'll be a kind of like a boilerplate contract that is used for the industry. So I don't want to let the clerk answer on what his turnaround time experience is with the legal.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, I don't have an exact time. As you're aware, we use the Regions Legal Services because we have a retainer with them. As far as I'm concerned, it would greatly depend on the agreement. I haven't seen the agreement. I'm sure if it's a 100-page agreement, it may take a little longer than if it's a one-page agreement. So it's very hard to say without actually seeing an agreement. I'm sure if it's a fairly simple agreement, it shouldn't take too long at all. Experience with the Regions Legal for matters that I've taken to them previously. Admittedly, they've not been agreements specifically. Their turnaround time is, days, not weeks. But they have been simple matters in the past.
Thank you, and through the mayor, can I trust that staff will expedite this particular item?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, absolutely. As soon as staff gets the agreement, I will forward it myself directly to Regions Legal for their review, and then upon their satisfaction with the agreement, certainly the mayor and I will sign off as soon as possible.
Okay, so just before we go to other questions, is that friendly amendment agreeable? Agreeable? Councillor Cat? Yes? Okay. Thank you. So then, Councillor Watton?
And I think it was asked, and maybe I missed the answer, but who's writing up the agreement?
We
To
would,
be presented to legal? Like, is Mr. Donnelly sending us something, or are we sending Mr. Donnelly something?
I believe that it'll be initiated by them to be reviewed by us, goes through staff to legal, so that there's something there. Quite honestly, there's an expectation that there's going to be standard documentation for this, but we want to make sure that we're protected. Any other questions? All right, seeing none. Motion, does anybody need it reread, or you? So Councillor Somerville would like it reread.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion reads that council secure Mr. B. Donnelly in principle as the professional event coordinator for the music festival for an upset limit of $15,000 net of HST, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the contract between the township of Scugog and Mr. B. Donnelly, subject to review by the township's legal representative.
Okay. All right. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks. Next item is we have the recommendation from the committee that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute a contract with Big Rec at a cost of $27,500, excluding HST, as the Friday evening headliner act, pending the review and approval by the event coordinator. There's also some comments about the agreement, again, being reviewed by legal, because this is a contract that is going to bind the municipality, so we want to make sure we do our due diligence and include that. So that is a suggestion to be added onto this recommended motion. Do we have a mover and seconder for this? Councillor Somerville, seconded by Councillor Kett. So it's the same that you have there. The agreement be reviewed by legal.
Pending the review by legal.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next item, recommendations here, Festival Advisory Committee, that the chair, with the assistance of the event coordinator, be authorized to enter into negotiations with the Bomb Band for the opening act for Friday evening. We need a mover and a seconder for that recommendation. Councillor Back, seconded by Councillor Kett. Any questions on that motion? Councillor Guido.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I did a quick Google search, and Councillor Watton, you're correct. It is I'm correct to say that it's a cover band, the Bomb Band. So my question here is, there's no dollar value associated with this motion or recommendation. So are we negotiating with them for a free of charge event? No. So what is the upset amount here that we are negotiating?
Councillor Back.
Thank you, through the mayor, to Councillor Guido. We're in the midst of negotiations with them, but they by no means will be anywhere near the price of the rec. But they're not going to do it for free also. They obviously are going to want to be paid.
So then, back to my initial question, do we need to set a dollar, or does someone need to set a dollar value here as to how high they're willing to negotiate?
So I'll just clarify. My understanding from being at this particular committee meeting is that this is just to secure them pending approval that has come back through minutes. So all the dollar amounts are going to have to come back through the minutes and securing with it, because I believe the committee is meeting more regularly, so they can come back. It wasn't as urgent to secure them. It could be done within their council schedule.
So then it'll come back to council for final approval?
Yes, unless other committee members, Councillor Back has a clarification or...
Thank you, through the mayor. Yes, I think it should, unless, again, it's a time-sensitive issue. But I just wanted to point out that council already approved 70,000 for entertainment. So this is just part and parcel of that 70,000, with 27,500 going to secure Big Rec. So then we have an additional 40,000 and change for other acts. So we're just going into the negotiation process.
But to answer Councillor Guido's question, my understanding is that it's still, dollar amounts would still come back, because checks would have to still come back through minutes to this council. Okay. That's, does that clarify? Okay. Okay. Councillor Drew, did you have a question?
Going to point out that the motion only says that we're entering into negotiations. It's not approving anything.
Councillor Back?
Thank you, through the mayor. I just have one question with regards to the Palmer Park entertainment. Will we also be, as council, going through the same process, securing all the acts and negotiations with them as well? I think, seeing that there wasn't really a budget allocated.
Councillor Drew, did you? Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. So any other questions on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. All right, next item is the Music Festival. Will be a 3-day event from Friday, June 30th, 2017 to Sunday, July 2nd, 2017, was a recommended motion from the committee. So I'd need a mover and a seconder for that. Please, Councillor Somerville, seconded by Councillor Kett. Questions on this motion? Councillor Drew.
Thank you. Before the Canada Day Committee split into the two committees, there was a mention of, well, first of all, it was just Friday night, and then there was a mention at one of the committee meetings about a 3-day event, and the consensus at the table at that time was not supportive of that, because it would be in direct conflict with the Palmer Park activities. The idea was that it was just going to be a Friday night event, and then all of a sudden last week it turned into a 3-day event, and I'm concerned about a number of things. First of all, is this a paid entrance event on Saturday? And if it is, what are your chances of success when you have free entertainment all day on Saturday at Palmer Park? Both these events are township sponsored, and they would appear to be in conflict with one another. So that's my one question.
Okay. Councillor Kett, did you?
Thank you, Mayor. To answer that, yes, before the committees were split, that was the feeling. But when they were split, we all had to start back from square one, and we have been working with Mr. Brent Donnelly, and the fact is that the expense that's being incurred is for the 3-day event. So to not operate on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday would be a true waste of taxpayers' money. Also, as Councillor Drew alluded to, everything at Palmer Park will be of no charge, whereas the events that are running out of the fairground will be charged. So that's why we have to go to recoup the money that's being charged for event coordinators, for tents, and everything like that. Thank you.
Councillor Watt?
Just one question. Did our terms of reference for both these committees get changed to, I was under the impression it still read that it was a 1-day music festival, and maybe I'm missing it, or maybe it got changed. Just want clarity on that.
Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, the original terms of reference did mention Friday, June 30. That was removed by council, so there was no dates in the terms of reference as it stands right now.
Okay. And just one other question then to, I guess, maybe Councillor Kett or Councillor Back. Is there any concern with the attendance for a big band or a big group on Saturday evening with respect to fireworks and so on, or do you believe that they would be still independent of each other, or will the group come on after the fireworks?
I'll answer that. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Cass?
The talk on, our last meeting anyways, I forget when it was, is that we would like to have it wrapped up by 10 o'clock so that they could actually go to the fireworks if they wished, and maybe have some, smaller entertainment after for the people that didn't wish to go. But other than that, that's sort of the venue. We now have a big chunk to pay for, and to have it not operate on Saturday and Sunday would be a waste. All the events will be paid for. The Sunday events, we're trying to get local talent to come in and recoup a bit of revenue from that as well.
Well, I think that's great, and I think if the Saturday evening could be coordinated so that, you know, both could be enjoyed, I think that would really help the cause and then benefit everyone.
Well, that's exactly what being on both committees helps myself, is that we can coordinate the two events.
And just, Councillor Watton, further to your comments were brought up, I did also bring that up too about traffic mitigation, because especially if they were ending the same time or et cetera, so definitely there needs to be a strong level of communication between the two different committees and make sure they're operating together so that they know what each other is doing based on traffic, because I could see a traffic nightmare if they ended the same time. I already know how long it takes to get out of downtown after the fireworks are done, so, but I also understand the concern of the fixed costs outlaid for the event, but I think a lot of this information is going to come forward, so. Councillor Back.
Thank you, through the mayor, and yeah, I just want to reiterate, so whether we have a one-day event or a three-day event, that stage and the tent and the speakers would be paid or charged for 3 days. So it only makes financial sense to try to recoup some of that for the 2 other days, and to be able to feature some of our young and upcoming talent would be a nice, just sort of a nice nod to them, and having their, you know, families and whatnot, seeing them on a big professional stage. Who knows where they'll go from that. So that's sort of a nice opportunity. Also, you have to think about the stage and the tent and the speakers. Those will be there for the 3 days as well, and you wouldn't want to have that unattended. You wouldn't want to have liability to the township if kids are up there and destroying it, vandalizing or whatnot. So to have an actual event on the Saturday and a Sunday, you have many eyes there, and obviously you wouldn't have people just jumping on the stage and doing damage. So that also looks out for the township liabilities. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, any other first-time speakers? I have Councillor Drew up next, but Councillor Guido or Councillor Somerville? Councillor Drew.
Thank you. It seems to me there was a business case that showed that this Friday night event would be a profit-making venture, and I don't know what's happened since then. I have some real concerns that these things weren't thought of, and this is precisely why this should have been started well over a year ago for an event of this nature. I think we would be better off just keeping it at the Friday night and see if we can be successful in that, rather than try to conflict with another township event going down on Palmer Park. I was quite surprised, and I know that there was a committee member that was not there at the time, and he has a good business sense, and I don't know what he would feel about this, but it's unfortunate that there was a meeting planned when he was not going to be able to be there.
I believe the individual you're referring to that was not there knew the meeting was scheduled, but he said he was aware that it was going to be happening, but obviously because of the time and the essence of everything, meetings have to be scheduled to make sure we can move forward with it. That's one of the reasons why I made sure to attend the is to make sure that this is protected. The same concern that you had about conflicting with the downtown. I did bring up that concern, but I also have the same concern that having a professional event coordinator vet it and give the opinions on it, and that was one thing that I view coming out of this is if different individuals of a committee have different views or different business cases or different ideas or different successes, truly I put a lot of weight on somebody that actually lives and breathes, does this as a living. So I would be looking forward to the professional event coordinator advising on how this should be rolled out for success, knowing full well what we do downtown, what we do with the fireworks, what we do there, because the last thing anybody wants to see is either one of these events not succeed. So I think we want to make sure this Canada 150 is truly a celebration that represents the 150th. So that the committee spoke about the Canada Day and was very much was on their radar to make sure that there was communication and making sure they're working together to not interfere with each other. Yeah, continue on.
If I may, was there an intention that they were also going to be having entertainment all during the day, conflicting with the Vets for Vets parade and all the activities going on down in Palmer Park, or is it just an evening event?
Councillor Kett, I believe it was talked about. I'll give Councillor Kett the option because I know he was part of that conversation because he knew that he verified the timings of the parade.
Yeah, I verified it, and I don't want to spread myself very thin throughout the event, so even though I'm big, I can't spread that far. We brought up the fact that the parade would be starting at 10:30 and that there'd be entertainment through the day at Palmer Park, but we also know that the entertainment will start in late afternoon and go on until 10 o'clock. We're not sure when, how long it will go, but that was brought up, that for sure the entertainment would be finished well, we actually said 9:30 at that time.
I'm still not very clear. Is it just in the evening?
I thought I made that clear when I said it would be starting in the early
I'm sure.
late afternoon.
Well, there's entertainment down in Palmer Park all afternoon and evening. When this idea about the music festival first came up, it was intended that if you're hiring bands for Saturday, you're going to be well over your $70,000 because you've also got the cost of the stage, the cost of security, you've got porta potties, you got marketing, you got the rental of tents. I'm very nervous about how this can be successful. I do have some questions about the minutes, but I'll save that till after.
Okay. So, next up, Councillor Back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, as you can see with negotiations with the BOM, there's also going through a list and seeing entertainment available for the Saturday. So the start time obviously would be who would be in the lineup, but as Councillor Kett said, probably realistic is late afternoon, early evening. And to appease Councillor Drew's concerns of the $70,000 being paid back, it just makes fiscal sense to have 2 more days of possible gate ticketed revenue. And those are going to be 2 complete different target markets that you're looking at. Downtown Palmer Park will be, young kids, families, seniors, and, just people coming into the town, where the targeted, with advertising, looking specifically for who's coming on stage on Saturday, may or may not have even thought to come to Port Perry. And if they do come earlier and come to our merchants, all the better. But I think you're looking at 2 separate target markets here, and so it means that ultimately we'll have more people celebrating Canada Day in Port Perry.
Councillor Drew, did you have?
One more question. Has the Fair Board approved use of the fairgrounds for 3 days?
Counselor Somerville, you have it on the...
Yes, this is coming up on the agenda on March the 8th, when we have our meeting. They've already shown support for this in a previous meeting, yes. And just further to a question, yes, it was late afternoon, we did talk about the time, because we were concerned about the fireworks, and we did want to make sure that it was stopped well prior to the fireworks, just for your question there. And our meetings are every Tuesday at 5 o'clock. And if you wish to sit in on our meetings, I'm sure we would have no problem sitting in on our meetings. But no, but you couldn't vote. You can, but we have our meetings every Tuesday. That's been known, and Mr. Voss did not miss that meeting. He knew that we had it on Tuesday evening. So that's just some questions I knew was being asked. Thank you.
Counselor Watton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one is to our fire chief. Maybe I shouldn't assume, but will you be putting a plan together for emergency services for this event? Or have extra on calls, or just in case, or is there any thought to that at all?
We will be involved to reduce the risk to the municipality, for sure. From the plan through to inspecting any of the occupancies that may be used to hold other than what they're used for now.
Any other questions from council? Councilor Somerville.
Thank you. I just want to make another thing known, that we do have an emergency services secured plus the fire department. So we have OVERT, O-V-E-R-T, that will be working on it with the fire department.
And just to add to this, I think this is the magnitude of this event is significant, and it is Canada 150. I just keep circling back to the professional event coordinator and making sure that they are heavily involved in the full decision-making process. So that's what I keep making sure that we circle back and include in with the process. So, any questions on that motion then? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Carried.
To the minutes?
Okay, do we mover and seconder for the minutes? Do we have a mover and seconder for the minutes? Councilor Somerville, second by Councilor Kett. Councilor Drew.
Thank you. I was very concerned that there was 4 members of council at that meeting. It's a slippery slope, and to my knowledge, this is the second time that's happened, not necessarily at that particular committee, but it's the second time that's happened. And those that are involved are opening themselves to question on the Municipal Act and our procedural bylaw, just having 4 people at a meeting. Whether they're taking part in the meeting or making motions, it's a very slippery slope, and I would just caution that be very careful about that. I personally would not have taken part, and that's why I would not go to a meeting on a Tuesday night, because you already have 3 councillors on the committee. So that's something I would not entertain doing. I do have a question about the rental of the tent. Is this tent the beer tent? Is it an addition to the beer tent? And if it's an addition to the beer tent, is it a tent just covering the stage, or is it a tent to hold the crowd?
Just before I go on there, I just wanted to reflect or answer your concern about that, because I was a 4th member there. The terms of reference do say that if I am there present because I'm ex officio, then I'm non-voting, and I did not vote on any of the matters, but I do understand where you're coming from with just the concerns about having that. I made it very clear that at the beginning when the minutes were there that I was there in attendance, but I would not be voting on any of the issues. So, Councilor Kett, did you want to comment on the tent?
Yeah, I just wondered where Councilor Drew got the information. that
In the
there was
minutes.
that there was 4 councilors.
In the minutes.
Where?
Where's this? Oh. All right, what's in the minutes? See,
But that's regardless of where it said in the minutes. What was your point, Councillor Cap?
I must, my point was about the minutes is I must be missing some of them, because there's also the Saturday entertainment is missing.
it is in the minutes, thank you. I guess I don't have the first page.
Yeah, it just says for present,
Yeah.
also regret.
Yeah, I think it says pecuniary interest, it says that, yeah,
Yep, yeah,
yeah,
right in the minutes.
so.
What, that the mayor's not voting? It says in, yeah, I see that.
So Councillor Cat, you were answering about the 10th, that's why
I was answering about the...
I was looking over to you to answer Councillor Drew's question
Sure, I'll
about the 10th.
answer about the tent. Yes, the tent is, the tent holds between 3 and 3,500 people. And it's a clear span tent, so there's only structure on the outside of it.
Councillor Drew, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does, but, in the previous minutes of February the 7th, Mr. Voss made a motion that the 2017 Music Festival be an open-air, rain or shine event held at the Port Perry Fairgrounds. Open air does not include being inside a tent.
Yeah, that, we understand that, and our, professional advisor advised to have this, so that it could be rain or shine, so there'd be no, problems for the municipality on having to refund money or pay bands that aren't.
I don't, Mr. Mayor, I don't know, I mean, it's not a huge issue, but, if you've made a motion, and then the next meeting you contradict that motion, I don't know if there has to be a rescinding, or if you have to, I don't know, it has happened so seldom, I don't know, but that motion was passed at that committee, so.
And I believe, just my understanding from listening there is that it was brought up that if you have an open-air event, you still have to pay for the apparatus to rig the speakers, you still have to have a tent to cover the band, the stage, the equipment, the speakers, so by the time you put all in there, these tents come with all the rigging apparatus in them, so that was the event coordinator's suggestion, is that you're gonna pay for all that anyways, so.
I understand
Yeah.
that, it was just that the motion, you can get a
Yeah.
tent just to cover the stage.
Mhm.
You know, the previous motion was that it was an
Yeah.
open-air, rain or
So-
shine event.
So, what I would suggest is the committee actually takes that back with, just to make sure that there aren't any issues with that, and deals with that,
It's a procedural
motion
thing.
Procedurally,
Yeah.
I know. Actually, I'd look to the clerk to see what his suggestion would be, so we can deal with it now, if you understood, Councillor Drew's comments on it.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to council, it's difficult to say because it depends on your definition of an open-air event. And if there is, you know, the professional event coordinator sort of has a different definition of maybe the rest of the festival is an open-air event. In terms of the procedural, yes, if it is in conflict, then there should be an amendment to a reconsideration of a matter previously adopted, and it comes forward that way. But again, it all depends on that definition of a open-air event, whether it includes maybe partial tenting of the stage or things like that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, and just
Further to my comments about 4 members of being, council being there,
And I'll just speak to that. That was hence the reason why we added other members onto the committee, to get more citizen representation. And also the chair has to be a citizen, and then the chair can't put forward the motion, so there's a kind of, you lose one of the members, and obviously one of the other members was away. And the two new members, there was one other citizen that actually put forward the motion, so, understand your concerns you're expressing, but I think that was why we added, as a council, more citizens onto that committee last council meeting. Councillor Back?
Thank you. Through the mayor, and I just wanted to reiterate as well, the tent, as you said, this one would be more cost-effective and would cover just in case, because usually on the Canada Day weekend, one day at least, it usually does rain. We were told also that the side portions of the tent would not be installed unless it was very heavy rain, so in a sense, you've got a sort of open air aspect. It's just, and it's 30 feet high, so it's not like you're in a little wedding tent, all stuck in there like sardines. So you still have your open air aspect, you also have your beer tent, you also have your food trucks, so it is by all means an open air event. And we do have our meeting tonight at 5:30, so we'll be bringing that forth to rescind the week prior to last week's motion.
Okay. Any other councillor? Councillor Kent? Okay. No, this is on this particular motion. Okay. Any other questions on it then? To the clerk, is there, by endorsing the minutes with that other item in there, is there any concerns with that, or is it pretty ambiguous with the open air that we can just deal with it formality, the committee can deal with it formally?
Through Mr. Mayor, I would say that the committee can deal with that, and bring it forth through their next set of minutes, as Councillor Back suggested. I think that's fine at this stage.
Okay. All right, then, any other further questions? None? All those in favor? Carried. Sorry, I know we have another meeting that's waiting for this room. We have this confirming bylaw. Councillor, I don't want to add anything. You're trying to do something. If it's not on here, I just, is it to deal with stuff that we've dealt with?
It's to deal with an omission on the minutes. And for Aaron Pritchett on Saturday.
Is that in the regular minutes?
It isn't, but it should be. It was agreed upon and voted on.
Mr. Belfry, as a staff representative, I know Sean is not here, but do you remember?
Through the mayor, it was discussed about Aaron Pritchett, but I don't believe a formal motion was made because of the special event coordinator wasn't in place yet, so it was pushed back to when that contract was put in place.
Right. Okay, Councillor Kett,
I'll have to ask Councillor Somerville if that's what she remembers, because we thought it was voted on that.
I don't know if there's a time. My recollection was it was not as urgent as the headlining ban, and that it would be coming back to us so that it could be held. That was my recollection. I know that the discussion unfolded, so.
Well, it is important, and it is time sensitive, like everything is for Canada Day, and it would be simple just to I've got a motion worded out if I mean, it's a time-sensitive situation, and it's a Juno award nominee.
Councillor Watton.
My question would be, can this committee or council change or add to the minutes that are being presented to us when they have not been approved by the members of that committee? I know, but I know, but I could say, well,
Okay, so Councillor Kett, through the procedural bylaw, just because we want to make sure that we're on side here, that no business can be transacted at a special meeting other than that specified in the notice agenda, recognizing that it didn't make the minutes and it should have, I suggest that tonight's committee meeting deals with it, and we deal with it after that. What needs to be done will have to be done. Obviously, we'd like to have taken care of all the pressing issues through this special meeting, but if it means calling another special meeting, we have to call another special meeting, but I'd rather do that than to deviate from the minutes that were presented, so. So having said that, we need a mover and a seconder for the bylaw proceeding, confirming bylaw, Councillor Watt, and seconded by Councillor Kett. Any questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Meeting to adjourn, Councillor Kett, Councillor Somerville, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.